Let me tell you all something. Not too long ago, people used to say India is still catching up. They thought India was just outsourcing call centers, hosting yoga retreats, and serving spicy food. That was the image. That was it. They didn't know. They didn't see what was coming. While the world stayed busy judging India by its past, India stayed busy rewriting its future. And now the same countries that once laughed have gone quiet, real quiet, especially the United States, because India hasn't just been building roads or smart cities. India has been building weapons so advanced, so accurate, and so unbelievably powerful that even the Pentagon had to lean back and say, hold on, what did India just pull off? When people talk about military power, their minds jump straight to the US, Russia, China. That's the usual list. They never expected India to be part of that conversation. But the game changed. It's a new arena now. India isn't following the West anymore. India is moving with its own playbook. Quiet, calculated, strategic. For years, India invested in technology, weapon systems, and innovation that would make anyone stare twice. Not one or two systems, we're talking 10. 10 Indian weapons so advanced, so futuristic that even the US had to raise an eyebrow and whisper, wait, India built that? When you're underestimated for a long time, you learn how to move in silence. India didn't shout. They didn't chase headlines. They stayed patient and focused. While others fought for attention, India dominated research labs, and now the headlines write themselves. Let's start with something faster than sound itself, the BrahMos missile. It's not just fast, it's the fastest cruise missile on Earth. Blink and it's already on target. Built with Russian partnership, but now India is taking control with BrahMos Block 2 and the upcoming hypersonic versions. Hypersonic means so fast most defenses can't even react. That kind of speed changes warfare. What shocked the world even more is India isn't hoarding it. India is exporting it. The Philippines already bought it. Vietnam is lining up. Nations that once underestimated India are now asking for deals. India used to be the buyer. Now India is the seller. Now India is shaping the weapons market instead of begging to enter it. That's a serious shift in power. And it doesn't stop with missiles. India went underwater too, the INS Arihant, India's nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. That's elite-tier capability. Only a handful of nations can build that. It takes decades of nuclear science, silent propulsion, engineering precision, and secrecy. India built it quietly, a submarine that can stay submerged for months, carry nuclear missiles, and strike from anywhere without being detected. That's no longer simple defense. That's deterrence. That's power. That's India saying, we're not here to participate, we're here to secure. Then comes the Agni V missile, India's long-range intercontinental ballistic missile, range over 5,000 kilometers. That means India can reach across continents if it ever had to. India doesn't show it off, but the world noticed, especially the US. They realized India now has true strategic reach and precision to match it. India doesn't build weapons to flex, India builds them to survive and protect. There's a difference. And then came space. DRDO's anti-satellite weapon, ASAT. India literally destroyed a satellite in orbit. Space warfare. That's a different dimension of combat. When Mission Shakti happened, the world froze for a second. People said, India can do that. Yes, India can, and India did. That means India isn't only protecting borders on land, sea, and air, but in space too. And the US had to recalculate quietly after that. But India didn't stop at brute force. They went smart. Artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, loitering munitions, drone swarms. India developed swarm drone tech where hundreds of small AI-powered drones move like a hive. Coordinated, fast, overwhelming defenses. Traditional air defense systems struggle against that. That's not just war anymore, that's digital chess. And India is thinking several moves ahead. Then comes air superiority, the HAL Tejas, India's indigenous light combat aircraft, built by Indian engineers for Indian skies. Agile, fast, modern, and battle-ready. It's not a prototype showpiece, it flies real missions. Other nations are watching. Argentina, Egypt, Malaysia, they're all studying Tejas. Because Tejas isn't just a jet, it's proof India can design, test, and deploy world-class aviation technology on its own. That surprised a lot of people, but it didn't end there. The Arjun Mk-1A main battle tank, heavy armor, advanced electronics, laser targeting, digital fire control systems. It's like a supercomputer on tracks, designed for Indian terrain, tested in deserts, mountains, and combat simulations. India used to import tanks. Now India manufactures beasts with "Made in India" stamped into every bolt. And then there's air defense, the Akash NG system, India's next-generation surface-to-air missile shield, capable of taking out fighter jets, drones, helicopters, and cruise missiles. It's the wall India needs in the sky. But the twist is global demand. Nations that can't afford US Patriot or THAAD systems are turning toward India, because Akash is reliable, scalable, and affordable. India didn't just build tech, it built accessible tech. Suddenly, India is becoming a defense supplier for the world. And the US isn't used to being second choice in markets it once dominated. Then comes something straight out of science fiction. The CATS warrior system. Combat Air Teaming System, AI-enabled unmanned wingmen flying beside manned jets, sharing radar data, attacking targets, dodging missiles, coordinating in real time without risking pilots, human and machine flying together as one unit. India is designing it, testing it, refining it. When other countries first saw it, they doubted it. Now they study it. Because this changes how wars are fought in the air. India didn't receive this power as a gift, it earned it through setbacks, through sanctions, through denial of technology. Every time someone said no, India said, "We'll build it ourselves," and not just copy it, improve it. What really shocked the US is the speed. Just decades ago, India depended heavily on imports. Now it's producing nuclear submarines, hypersonic weapons, smart bombs, fifth-generation concepts, and space systems. That kind of acceleration doesn't happen without discipline, intelligence, and long-term vision. And the US knows it. A rising power is one thing. A self-reliant, innovative, disciplined power is something very different. It's respect mixed with strategic concern. It's also about scale. India has one of the largest armies in the world, but now it's becoming one of the smartest. Training with AI simulations, using satellites for real-time mapping, testing hypersonic glide vehicles, integrating cyber and space warfare. India isn't modernizing for show. It's preparing for reality. India has neighbors that push boundaries. But now the bear is awake, armored, digital, and calculated. India is no longer asking, "Can we buy this?" India now says, "Here's our version, want some?" That's not evolution, that's transformation. For countries like the US that were used to dominating every military category, they weren't prepared for India to arrive like this. Confident, capable, strategic, controlled. So the next time someone says India is just Bollywood and spices, stop them right there. Tell them about BrahMos, tell them about Tejas, tell them about Agni, Arihant, Akash, Arjun, Asati. Tell them India didn't ask for permission to rise. It rose quietly, steadily, powerfully, and now the world is finally catching up. The US is stunned because they assumed India was 5 steps behind. Turns out India was simply walking its own path, laying its own road, and now it's setting the pace. They thought India was a follower, but when the dust settled, they realized something serious. India isn't knocking on the door anymore. By the time the world noticed, India wasn't asking for entry. It already owned the building. There was a time when India was known for importing everything, from rifles to radars, from tanks to fighter jets. If a defense system existed, India had to reach outward and wait. Wait for technology, wait for permissions, wait for spare parts, wait for upgrades. And every time global politics shifted, that waiting grew longer, riskier, and more expensive. That was the old story. That was the past. But something changed. India grew tired of waiting, tired of dependence, tired of chasing others, in a world where real power belongs to those who can build for themselves. So India made a decision, a bold one, a historic one. It said, no more. We will build. We will create. We will rise not as a buyer, but as a designer, a producer, and a seller. Self-reliance doesn't begin in factories. It begins in the mind, the moment you stop asking who will give this to us and start asking how can we make it ourselves. That shift happened deep inside India's spirit, and it wasn't just about pride, it was about survival and security. When your borders sit in a tense neighborhood, when your region is full of friction, you can't rely on someone else to protect your people. You must have your own strength. And India learned that lesson again and again. Every delayed contract, every cancelled transfer, every blocked technology. India didn't complain, India observed, India adapted. That's how the Atmanirbhar Bharat movement was born, a push for self-reliance across every sector, but especially defense. This wasn't a slogan, it became a national overhaul. Policies were rewritten, budgets were redirected, research labs were revived, private industry entered what was once closed government territory. Young minds, IIT engineers, coders, scientists, innovators were pulled into the mission, and they started building from the ground up. India wasn't copying anymore, it was inventing. And the results have been remarkable. India didn't just produce basic tools, it created world-class, export-ready systems. Look at what's happening now. The Philippines didn't just buy any missile, they chose BrahMos. Argentina didn't just look for a jet, they examined Tejas. Countries across Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Middle East aren't just shopping, they're partnering. Because India is offering a new model, high-quality defense that's affordable, dependable, and politically neutral. India isn't trying to control anyone, India is trying to empower them. And that changes the entire equation. India is becoming a defense hub not just for itself, but for the world. For nations that were locked out of advanced technology because US or European systems were too expensive or restricted, India now provides a real alternative. These aren't leftovers. These are next-generation platforms built with precision, tested in real conditions, and delivered with respect. India doesn't just want to enter the global arms race, it wants to reshape how the race works. Look at the numbers. Not long ago, India was one of the largest arms importers, billions flowing outward every year. Now those figures are shrinking fast as indigenous systems replace foreign ones. At the same time, exports are climbing. India has shipped defense equipment to more than 85 countries. From dependent to dependable, India flipped the script completely. This transformation didn't appear overnight. It came from planning, persistence, and a national commitment that crossed politics and industries. Leaders decided to invest in scientists, to trust engineers, to bet on Indian intelligence, and those minds delivered. DRDO, HAL, Bell, BDL, and private players like Larsen and Toubro, Tata Advanced Systems, and others all stepped up. From satellites to submarines, from armored vehicles to drone swarms, they built it at home. Built in India, for India, and now for the world. The journey wasn't smooth, projects failed, deadlines slipped, some systems had to be redesigned, but every failure became training. Every delay built toughness. Slowly, a new India took shape. An India that no longer panics when a supplier threatens sanctions. An India that doesn't beg for jets. An India that can manufacture its own rifles, drones, radars, and missiles. An India that can launch satellites, destroy targets in space, and still remain grounded. This isn't only about hardware, it's about dignity. When you build your own defense, you're telling the world, we trust our people, we believe in our ability, we are no one's client. And that confidence is powerful, that belief is what's turning India into a serious global actor. What surprises Western defense circles most is the scale of it. This isn't one breakthrough, it's a system-wide change. India is building light combat helicopters entirely at home. India created the Astra air-to-air missile to rival European systems. India is developing AMCA, its own fifth-generation stealth fighter from scratch. Artificial intelligence is being integrated into battlefield management. Cyber warfare units are trained locally. Quantum communication research is funded domestically. An ecosystem that didn't exist a decade ago is now alive and accelerating. And the most important part is, India is doing this while staying peaceful. These weapons aren't for conquest, they're for deterrence. Strength prevents war. A stronger India means a steadier South Asia. And the world is recognizing that. Partnerships are deepening. Joint programs with France, Israel, and European partners are expanding. But this time, India arrives with leverage, not dependency. And India's youth are driving it. Engineers, programmers, physicists, designers, they're no longer dreaming only about working abroad. They're dreaming about building India's next tank, next drone, next satellite network. They're staying, they're contributing, they're innovating, because the government, the military and industry opened the gates and said, come build with us. Now the pipeline is overflowing. Startups in Bangalore pushing drone technology, labs in Hyderabad refining radar signatures, coders in Pune optimizing missile guidance. This isn't just defense work, it's a national movement. India isn't only creating weapons for itself, it's producing systems that work globally, affordable, maintainable, and tailored for developing nations. Countries that once depended on second-hand equipment or foreign approval now see India as a reliable partner, and that builds trust. That builds influence without firing a shot. Even in massive projects, India is rewriting history. INS Vikrant, the first indigenous aircraft carrier, sent a message. India can build floating cities of power. Very few nations can say that, usually only superpowers. Now, India stands in that group, not by force, but by focus. There's something poetic in the journey. The same nation that once hunted for spare parts is now designing stealth drones, producing tanks, testing hypersonic missiles, and signing export deals with allies. It shows what belief and investment can create. No matter how underestimated you are, no matter how far behind you start, if you trust your people, fund their talent, and refuse to quit, there's no ceiling. That's the message India sends. Self-reliance isn't about shutting doors. It's about growing wings. It's about being strong enough to help others rise too. And the fact that nations are choosing Indian equipment isn't only about cost. It's about principle. India doesn't attach chains. It earns respect. And make no mistake, the United States sees the shift. They observe it. They analyze it. They understand the defense market is evolving, and India isn't just joining it. India is shaping it, quietly, strategically, confidently. Because once you learn to build for yourself, you don't wait for approval. You keep building, you keep climbing, you keep moving forward. Because self-reliance in defense isn't just a policy, it's a declaration that India has arrived, that it's here to stay, that it's no longer asking for a seat at the table, but helping decide how the table is built.